So, one more time, hello again. Thank you for joining us today in our webinar. My name is Andrei, and I'm support engineer for the OpenLM organization, and today I'll be your host. And the topic of today's webinar is FlexLM option files and how basically OpenLM can work with the option files and what you can achieve with them. Speaking of our agenda of today's webinar, we will go at the beginning, we will go through the brief introduction to the option files, and then we will jump directly into the demonstration. How can OpenLM work with option files? What are your capabilities? What are your options? And then at the end of the session, we will have time for some open questions and answers. So, to start with, introduction to option files. What actually the option file is? In its very basic and true nature, the option file is nothing else than just a simple text file with its specific syntax and keywords. They are used in the option file. It is having the .opt extension. That's the default extension for the option file. And the purpose of the option file is for license administrators to be able to manage the allocation of licenses, in some cases allow or deny access to a specific licenses, either for single users, maybe groups of users, even groups of hosts, or full IP ranges. On the right hand side here, we can see an example of the very simple example of the option file. So for example, we can see here the keyword group. This group, keyword group, stands for the name of the group we are creating here. It is followed by the name of the group itself. So in our case here, it's engineering. And the next is the username of every member of this group. So you can create multiple groups. You can then manage the access to the licenses, to the features, to the end users or groups. What you can do as well, you can include or exclude access. Excluded access means that a specific user or a specific group won't have access to your features you are defining here in the option file. So basically, the option file is able to grant the license admin some power over the license distribution. When we are speaking about the option files with OpenLM, in this case, the broker component is mandatory. We are able to use, read, and modify option files only when these are configured in the OpenLM broker component. And right now, I think we can jump into the Easy Admin interface and check how the option files management looks like in there. So in this case, I hope my screen is visible. In this case, we are located directly inside the Easy Admin interface of one of our servers. And for our demonstration, I'm going to use our ArcGIS license manager located here. So for the initial demonstration, I can do the license checkout for one of my ArcGIS products, let's say ArcMap. So what is going now in the backend of the application? Basically, the application sent a license checkout request towards the license manager. License manager evaluated all the conditions necessary and now is providing me with a license. So right now we are at the stage where my application is starting. and my application is up and running. So basically right now we are simulating the very basic license checkout procedure. We can double check the same from the Easy Admin interface. As we can see, for my ArcGIS license manager, I'm having one license in use. So we can double check it's me. Yes, this is my username. This is the feature I'm using. This is the actual product. And this is the session start time and the duration. So yeah, so far the license checkout works just fine. So for the demonstration, I can close the application again. And speaking of the option file management, what you can do with OpenLM and option files, if we go into the start menu and administration, we are having the option files management entry right here. If we open this one, we can see the list of all option files we are managing with OpenLM. So as for this demonstration, we are using ArcGIS. We are going to stick with this license manager. What we can do and what we can set up in this setting is the direction of the option file data flow. What it means is that the Easy Admin interface can basically work in two different modes. One of the modes is that option files are basically only displayed in the Easy Admin interface. So the whole Easy Admin interface and the whole user interface dedicated to option files, it just acts only as a reader. So you can adjust or change or manage the option files directly on the license server. You can work directly in the option file itself. You can make those entries manually and changes, and those will be reverted in the Easy Admin interface. That's this option. The first option works in a completely opposite way. In this setup and in this configuration, the OpenLM interface and OpenLM server basically acts as a writer. So that means what change is made inside the Easy Admin interface to a specific option file, you can save it and you can deploy the modified option file back to your license manager. With this option, you are also able to enable the option file's automatic file update. For example, when you are using the directory synchronization component and there is a group membership change, this option file will be updated once a day at your specified time here. So for our demonstration, I would like to have the Easy Admin interface as writer, basically working as an editor of the option file. So I'm going to stick with this first option and I'm going to save the configuration. And now we can check the actual management of the option file. So option files management. And as we can see, again, we are having the list of all our option files we are managing with the OpenLM. Here on the right-hand side, we can see the data flow, basically the direction. When it's stated this way, OpenLM to license server, that stands for the option that OpenLM, the Easy Admin interface, is acting as a writer. So I can stick with my ArcGIS here. And with the option files management, you are able to set a specific rules and conditions for single features. So right now we are having here the list of all features that we are able to basically provide to our end users from the licensing perspective. And I can make changes to a single feature here. If I would like to manage the rules for the option files for the whole license globally, I can switch to all features. and I can exclude or include users, maybe groups, hosts, single hosts, or host groups, or IP ranges into the option file. So just to remember this, with all features, we are setting conditions for all features globally for a specific license manager and license file. Then we are also able to set some general policies for the option file. For example, if the option file itself is group sensitive or case sensitive or not, we can select details that we do not want to have added into our debug log file. We can select the path to the actual report log. The same works for the debug log. And we can set a general timeout for all features. So basically, when there is an application, there is license checkout, and we can set general timeout that license manager will follow. If the threshold is lower than vendor is providing with the general timeout entry, it will stick all the time with the vendor provided value. If our value is higher than vendor is providing, then the value we are entering here will be the one we are going to apply to our conditions. So we can jump to the demonstration itself. So in the license checkout at the beginning, I've been using the Weaver feature here. So I switch myself here over to the Weaver feature. And at the bottom portion here of the screen, I can see right now I'm located in the users tab. That means I'm setting conditions for a single user. On the right side here, I can select my users. So this is the list of all users that OpenLM is aware of, basically all the users using some applications you are monitoring with OpenLM. I can search for my username, this one. I can select. And as we can see, my username is already added. And right now I am able to set conditions that I would like to. For example, I can set the amount of reserved licenses for myself. I can include myself to be able to check out the license, or I can deny access to myself. I can allow or deny to have some licenses borrowed. So for our demonstration, let's say I would like to exclude myself from license checkout. So basically what I'm going to achieve is that I deny myself an access to my Weaver feature here. So I can simply tick the tick box under the excluded. I can save the configuration. So feature details updated successfully. We can see the Weaver is in bold. That means there are some changes. And we can also see an orange warning triangle here that's saying that there are some changes made in the option file and the option file should be redeployed. It should be redeployed to the license manager, and license manager starts counting this changed option file. Before we are going to deploy the changed or modified option file, we can preview those changes. So what we achieved here is that we are having the exclude keyword. We are excluding from a feature Weaver. We are excluding user from feature Weaver, and the username we are excluding is my username. So if I'm sure that all the changes made by myself are correct, and I'm sure I can deploy the option file to the license manager, I can close this preview window, and I can simply hit the deploy button. Message was sent to the server, data will be refreshed in a few minutes. So right now, we can jump directly into the machine where my license server and license manager is running. So let me just log in again. And right now we are located directly on the license server hosting my ArcGIS license manager. We are in the folder of the license manager, and this is our option file for our ArcGIS license manager. If we check this timestamp of the last modified time, we can see that was 1 minute ago. So approximately about the time when we hit the deploy button. We can double check the entries here. And yes, so basically the line we were able to see in the preview is successfully placed in the actual option file for the license manager. So from this perspective, from the license manager perspective, everything seems to be about right. We can jump back to our actual server. And right now, I can try to start the ArcMap. And what I can immediately see, I'm receiving an error message as an end user. User host on exclude list for feature. We have the feature specified here, the license file path, and that means that our rule we created and deployed through the option files management is working. We can double check the same from the easy admin interface. Basically, what happened from the license manager perspective, I have been denied from the license checkout. So just to double check, I can select my denials report. I can select my ArcGIS and time frame just for today. And as a result, I can see one denial for my user. If I switch to table view here, I can see the exact time when the denial happened. And if I move the slider to the right, I can see the error message why that denial happened. User host on exclude list for feature. So yes, our rules for exclude a specific user, these are working. What if you would like to manage groups? From the long-term perspective, managing option files and access for a single users, that might be time-consuming, and after some time, you're gaining less and less visibility as the option file is getting more and more complicated. So for this reason, manage the access or manage the license allocation based on group might be more beneficial. So I can delete myself from the previous example. I can save. I can preview the option file again. So right now, basically it's empty. I can deploy the empty option file back to the license manager. And we can have a look how it works when you would like to manage the license allocation through groups. So in the start menu, I go into the groups and I've prepared in advance one group. It's called Weaver Excluded. I can check the membership and right now the group is empty. So I can add users. So again, I'm going to search for myself. Okay, I'm a member of the group Weaver Excluded. I'm going to switch from the Users tab to Groups tab. I'll stick with the Weaver feature again. And I'm going to add our created group, Weaver Excluded. to the actual option file. And because my intention here is to exclude or restrict the access to my Weaver feature for all the members inside this group, I'm going to select exclude it. I save the changes. And again, I can check what happened on the backend. So right now we are having two lines. The first line is representing the group we have created, or basically we have added to the actual option file. So our group is called Weaver Excluded, and then we can see the members of the group here. And the condition we created, exclude feature Weaver for our group Weaver Excluded. So from my perspective as a license admin, everything is about right. I can close the preview, and again, I can hit the deploy button. If I check my ArcMap again, and again, I receive the same error message. User host on exclude list for feature Weaver, and the license path to the actual license. So our rule for our feature Weaver worked really well. What you can do with OpenLM is that when you are using, or if you are using our component called directory synchronization service, you can automate the group membership. So if we imagine a scenario that this group name, Weaver underscore excluded, actually exists in my Active Directory or in my directory structure that I'm using for the synchronization of details to my OpenLM environment, and I'm updating this group membership, for example, once a day, I can use a dedicated synchronization job. Basically, that synchronization job will be focused only for this single group, and I can basically automate the group membership and all those changes basically performed on the backend on my Active Directory side to be reflected in the actual option file. For this, we need to have the auto update enabled, and we need to set the update time to a specific hour. So good practice is, if I know that the early birds from my engineers are going into the office around 7 a.m. in the morning, I can set the update time to 6 in the morning or maybe 5 in the morning. So I'll be sure that my option file is up to date before my engineers or end users starts using the application. You are also able to set multiple groups for multiple option files you would like to monitor and adjust these directory synchronization jobs and basically the membership sync very specifically to the group you would like to synchronize and to the option file you would like to work with. So the options that OpenLM is providing you in terms of the option file management, those are pretty scalable and flexible. As I have mentioned before during the short presentation, you are able to set conditions not only for single users, but for groups as well, for a single host, for a host groups, or for the IP ranges. Everything can be modified from the option files setting from the start menu. So we can create and define multiple IP ranges, and we can create and modify multiple host groups. So basically the logic is the same. As you are creating user groups, you are also able to create host groups and work with host groups instead of user groups. And I think this is the basic demonstration of how OpenLM can help you work with the option files, how the actual option file management looks like, how the user interface looks like, and what options you can get out of the OpenLM. So right now, I think if you're having any questions, feel free to ask. Can I use Azure AD as a source for my users and groups? Yes, you are also able to use the Azure Active Directory as the directory structure your company is working on or based on. So you are also able to use Azure and sync your data and group membership from Azure AD as well. Is there any other functionality allowing me to remotely manage license managers from OpenLM? Yes. When you are using OpenLM broker component, you are able to perform some basic remote actions. And we can, again, stick with our ArcGIS. So with broker in use, you can perform license manager start, license manager stop, and license manager reread. And on top of that, you are able to reread the license file and you are able to manage files remotely. So as we can see here, from one user interface, I am able to download the log file or another log file. I am able to download or upload the license file. And as we can see here, I'm also able to download the current version of the option files that's located on directly on the license server for this specific license manager. So basically, it makes the file management and basic license administrative task a little bit more comfortable. You don't have to go through the remote desktop connection directly to the license server. You can work from one user interface and perform all these basic tasks from one user interface. Is there any possibility to create option files for MATLAB? Example, manage assets to one group. Well, basically, yes, you are able to fully modify the option files. You can allocate specific sets of features to a specific group. You can allocate a single features to a group or a single user. And basically, you are able to completely take over the control of your licenses for features you are distributing. The only important condition is that you need to follow the syntax with correct keywords if you are creating the option files. And one important thing, or maybe it's a good best practice, at the beginning, when you are about to create the option file, you're having two options how to or what approach to take when you are creating the option file. And here you're having two choices. The general approach might be that by default, I'm allowing every single user to check out the license, and the purpose of my option file is to restrict access to specific features, or vice versa. By default, I'm denying the general access to my features to my end users. And the option file, the purpose of the option file is to allow access to a specific users to a specific features. When the option file is getting more and more complicated, in our showcase there, we have been dealing with very basic option files. Those option files consisting out of 5, 10, 15 lines, those are pretty easy to manage. But if we imagine that we are having option file where we are managing tens of different groups with maybe tens or dozens of different features combined with maybe single users. After some time, the option file is getting more and more complicated, and it's much easier to make a mistake when you are setting the conditions. So I think at the beginning, when you are creating option file, it is really good to set the correct approach. So again, by default, I'm allowing everyone to access my features. And through the option files, I'm doing only the exclude or the deny restrictions or vice versa. So what about changes to license file? Can I do it remotely as well? Yes, you are also able to change the license file, or for example, you receive the new license file after your license renewal. So you are able to deploy the new renewed license file to your license manager, or you are also able to make changes directly in the license file and deploy that modify license file from the EasyAdmin interface as well. How much does it cost to be able to use this option files management? Uh, right now, we are having the two bundles for OpenLM products. One of them is monitoring package and one of them is automation package. And this is, if I'm correct, part of the automation package. So if there are any other questions, feel free to ask. If not, I would like to invite you to our following webinars. In the April, we are having a few interesting webinars. You can subscribe to our newsletter either by scanning the QR code you are able to see in front of you, or you can write us an email directly, info@openlm.com, and we will be able to provide you with our newsletters and updates about our upcoming webinars. So I can see there are no other questions. So this was the brief demonstration from my end and how OpenLM can help you manage the option files, the FlexLM based option files, and how you can make your life with option files easier. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining, and I'll be happy to see you in one of our upcoming webinars.